Now, taking many of the principles I have talked about here, let's get straight into the realistic drawing of sliced oranges. I chose to draw these sliced oranges because I really love the vibrancy of the piece and the play of light. Drawing stills such as fruit or other objects can really help you to understand the medium you're working with. The full in-depth tutorial and real-time videos for this drawing are already available on my Patreon, but let's get right into this drawing now. So, like with many of my artworks, whether they are stills, animal drawings, seascapes, I always start with a base colour layer using the soft pastel sticks. Do you remember from the method section where I blend two colours to create a darker tonality? Well, this is what I'm doing in this dark area of the orange now, by using a dark brown with a vibrant orange. It may look a bit messy at this beginning stage, but as soon as I start blending the pigments together with my sponge, everything will become incorporated and smooth. Remember, for this base colour layer, we don't want to use a hard pressure with our soft pastels. If we did, then it would be difficult to put pencil details on top. So instead, we want to build up our colours in light, even layers. You can see already in this base colour layer, I will mix many relevant colours over one another. This is just the same as creating a new colour as I showed you in the method section. Now I'm just quickly going to finish putting in the colour for the leaves and then start to blend everything out. It's important to start with a new sponge head when beginning so that there is no contamination of colours. What you can do also to save money on lots of replacements is to get a spare piece of pastel matte paper, deposit a lot of the pigment from the same pastel stick that you need to start blending out, and pre-contaminate your sponge with the correct colour. To show an example of this, my sponge head here is already contaminated with a green colour from a previous artwork, but I want to start using it in an area with blue pigment. Let's pretend this paper is my spare paper. All I need to do is put a heavy layer down and proceed to blend it out. Now my sponge is contaminated with the right colour and I could go ahead and start blending my actual artwork without changing to a brand new sponge head. Okay, so back to the sliced orange artwork now. Once everything is evenly blended, it could still look a little ugly, but now it's time to refine everything with our pencils. There is no right or wrong place to start these details, just begin wherever you feel most comfortable. Instead of going around the whole area and gradually refining it all, I like to complete little sections to the best of my ability and then move on to the next one. There is no pressure though, as I can always come back at the end and refine some older sections even more if I needed to. My main aim here was just to copy the reference to the best of my ability and choose really rich and vibrant colours. I wanted to make sure that this piece was bright and colourful so it would stand out. Here is the part where I start refining the surface that the oranges are on. Do you see on the reference photo that there is a subtle orange reflection? This is the light bouncing off from the orange, and it's really important to input details like this. To do this, I used light gradual layers with my vibrant orange pencil and blended this out with my finger. The centerpiece for this artwork is this slice in the foreground. This is where I need my pencils to be the sharpest as it's the most in focus. When compared to the oranges in the background, they are slightly blurry, so capturing this is crucial to convey a sense of depth. It also brings the audience's eye to the center of this artwork. As you can see, I am using very vibrant colors to really bring this center slice to life. I just absolutely love how the light is shining through and lighting the whole thing up. Now I'm going to add in the texture lines that I can see on the branch, and to do this I'm using a sharp grey and a sharp black with a hard pressure. I can also see some subtle orange reflections, so I'll be sure to add those in with a sharp orange. I'm also adding in a subtle cool greys to this outer edge for the darker parts, before moving on to drawing in the vein texture details that I can see in the foreground slice. For the veins I'm using an orange pencil which shows up perfectly against the light yellow base layer. I'm then shifting my attention to the center details where the slices all join up. There's a lot going on in this area, and you can even see the orange behind showing in through the gaps. Then continuing with the vein details, I will use vibrant pinks, oranges and whites, just aiming to follow the pattern that I can see in the reference as best I can. Shifting my attention to these leaves on the right side, I will alter their tones and colours by using vibrant turquoise and yellow colours, using a light even pressure with my pencils. Once blending and incorporating the pigments with my fingers, I'll then use this bright vibrant yellow to bring out the highlight for this orange, before moving on to the inner details of this background orange. As I mentioned before, this orange is in the background and is slightly out of focus. This is important to replicate so I am sure not to create any sharp details. I can also lightly blend with my finger if I want the detail to be more blurred. I'm also going to add in the subtle, hard to see vein textures of this orange with an orange pencil before moving on to refining the foreground slice even further. I'm just adding some of the highlights and darker textures that I can see on the outer edge of this slice, and I'm using a colour picker to see what colours I need for a specific area. I think that is looking pretty realistic, so I'm going to shift my attention to this last orange now. I'm first going to refine this gorgeous glowy colour that we can see next to the foreground slice. And then with light gradual layers, I will add in the correct colours and tones with a mixture of sharp orange, red and brown pencils. Throughout the Patreon tutorial, you can see how I provided colour picked examples so you can see what sort of colours we are looking for in the various areas. Here I'm using this vibrant pink with the aim of really making the area feel like it's glowing with light. Before I move on to the details here, I just quickly want to refine the left side of this outer slice by lightly adding in turquoise and greeny brown tones. To begin adding in the details, I'm just going to pick off some of the excess pastel with my kneadable eraser so that the pencil details will go on well, just as how I showed you in the method section. Using the opaque Caran d'Ache pastel pencils for the highlights and an orange for the darker spots, I'll add in the texture as I can see it on the reference. I will often touch up with my vibrant pink just to keep that glowy vibrancy high. I can then start gently lightening up this darker side with subtle greeny browns and start filling in the dot texture with a deep red. It's important to choose rich colours where you can. If I chose a black for this dot texture, it would look flat and overpowering. So just for some of the final touches to this section, I'll use a white for the very highlighted sections and also vibrant colours for the relevant parts to keep everything looking bright. To finish this artwork off, I will lastly further refine the colours and tones of the leaves. I'm using light pressures with various shades of greens and yellows to just improve upon the tonalities as I can see them on the reference photo. Once an artwork is finished, I always like to leave a small signature in the corner and then I can call that piece finished. I really hope you like the outcome. I think there's always a lot to learn from drawing stills such as this. You can take a photo of anything and turn it into a drawing of your own, which I think is great. If you would like a much more in-depth lesson for how to draw